Henry mentioned community engagement during his talk, and I think one of the most inspiring things that we saw during the last Giving Tuesday was communities coming together to celebrate this day in a deeply engaged way, taking local roots even as it grew globally, and so many beautiful things happening as a result of that. So many public-private partnerships and collaborations, schools, houses of worship, local businesses, all coming together for one purpose: to increase giving in funds, to increase giving in time, to increase giving in advocacy. And I think we want to see a lot more of that this year. So this panel today will be talking about what worked, what we learned, how we can really see this scale even more this Giving Tuesday. So I'm going to do very quick introductions. As I introduce, please come on up and take a seat. So first of all, my old friend, Boaz Paldi, from United Nations Development Program, Senior Communications Associate, focuses on campaigns, partnerships, and communications innovation. Boaz is a key partner in the Social Good Summit and Giving Tuesday as well. Sergio Fernandez de Córdova, is he here? Fine, he will come in as he can. We will come back to him. Heather Fields, come on up. Directs marketing and PR for GiveCorps. She was a key leader in Be More Gives More in Baltimore, exploring the intersection of small businesses, nonprofits, and enthusiastic communities in Baltimore. And I'm sure she will bring those insights to grow Baltimore's Giving Tuesday outcome in 2014. Eileen Heisman, President and CEO of the National Philanthropic Trust and on Giving Tuesday's advisory board, involved in Giving Tuesday right from the very beginning, a nationally recognized expert on charitable and planned giving, and a member of Giving Tuesday PHL. And Jeanne Paradis, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I haven't had a chance to meet you in person, Jeanne. Come on up. Senior Communications Associate and Interaction, also involved in Giving Tuesday right from the beginning. Sergio, glad you're here. How are you? All right, so let's get started. And I want to throw it to Heather first. So Heather, one of the key leaders in Be More Gives More, which Henry just referenced, raised $5.7 million. She will talk about what the goal actually was and how they got to that incredible number. This is a best practices summit, so let's just get to it. Heather, talk a little bit about Be More Gives More, and tell us what worked.
Okay, great. Thanks. Honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. So Be More Gives More. Simple campaign idea, very lofty ambitions. We started in August of 2013. Literally, a small team of folks from GiveCorps got together in the basement of our building, and we were talking about Giving Tuesday. And we were actually really proud of the fact that in 2012, the biggest single fundraiser was one of our local nonprofits, the Associated Jewish Federation in Baltimore, raised $1 million. We at GiveCorps, we did participate in 2012 with Giving Tuesday, but we had mild success. We were aware there were a few other nonprofits in the city that had participated, but we recognized there was no central sort of convening organization that was stepping into the opportunity to change things for the city. And so that was sort of an enlightening moment for us that, we could really be the convener. We were at the intersection of hundreds of nonprofits using we have a fundraising automation platform, and they use it to raise money online. We work with a lot of small businesses. We're very tapped into the larger philanthropic community and the business community. And so we sort of raised our hand and said, we want to do something in Baltimore for 2014. So we wrote down a list of the 7 really large philanthropic organizations who had to participate in order for this to be a success. And then we started calling them and invited them to our building, and 19 showed up. And when we talked about this lofty goal, this $5 million goal, nobody batted an eye. In fact, they were very excited to get on board. So that was really how it started. A meeting in our basement in August of 2013, followed by a meeting a week later with 19 philanthropic leaders.
How'd you come up with that $5 million goal?
It was really cocktail napkin math. We knew that the Associated had raised $1 million. We sort of canvassed the community. We knew that our foundations would be giving approximately that amount or more at the end of the year, and we thought maybe we could talk them into bringing that forward to December 3rd. We knew how much money was flowing through our platform. We knew that the sort of average online donation at the end of the year was around $100, and sort of just kind of did the math. Wasn't quite $5 million, but we knew that we had a very compressed timeline, and so we wanted a lofty goal. We knew we needed it to be something that was not business as usual to get people to rally And so $5 million felt like something that would be very motivating for the community. We honestly didn't think we'd make it, I don't think. We thought we'd be close, but we didn't care if we didn't make it. We actually thought, you know what, that's okay. We're going to get a lot of great learnings, and we're going to celebrate how close we got, and we'll maybe be $5 million in 2014. So we were thrilled to exceed $5 million, but it really, truly was a very great rallying amount for our community.
So best practice number one of the day is set yourself a stretch goal.
Ambitious, lofty goal.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that one thing that communities looked to Baltimore and were really impressed by was the deep, deep engagement of the mayor. You want to talk about how that happened and,
Sure.
and what it got you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most of us can probably relate to the fact that the mayor or your leading politicians, they're really great at rallying the citizens. We didn't have a personal connection to the mayor, but one of our lead partners, the United Way, did. And so they got a meeting for us. And we literally went into the mayor's office. We met with her team. The idea at the time, if I'm being honest, was we wanted to challenge another city. We actually wanted to challenge Pittsburgh. We knew that the Ravens and the Steelers, there's nothing that rallies the city of Baltimore like a Steelers football game. And their game was going to be on Thanksgiving night, so just a few days before Giving Tuesday. And we thought, heck, that's going to be a great place. We'll work with the Ravens. We'll get the mayor to challenge the mayor of Pittsburgh. And she loved the idea. She's a huge football fan. But as we talked, over the course of the hour, we realized, the clock was ticking. They probably weren't going to be able to pull it off. And so we came up with a lot of other strategies to work with the mayor. Everybody on her team got on board. I mean, a huge shout out to her press office, her photographer, her chief photographer. He coordinated a huge afternoon with us and all of the lead partners to come down to City Hall. We took tons of photos, which we used throughout the campaign. So if you're familiar with our campaign, you saw we had pictures of the mayor every week that we took on that single day with different wardrobe and signs. Her press secretary was very engaged with me personally. We were talking every day. She was finding media opportunities for the mayor. The mayor is very active in social media with a huge following. So she was really important to us to help sustain the momentum and rally the citizens throughout.
Excellent. So I want to return to you because I want to talk about sort of focus in on nonprofit engagement and what the experience of your local nonprofits was like. But first I want to move across the globe. So Boaz, when we talk about community engagement, we're talking about Boothbay Harbor, right? We're talking about Baltimore and Philadelphia, but we're also talking about Zimbabwe. We're also talking about Burundi. So UNDP works in some of the areas of globe that are mired in extreme poverty. How in the world does Giving Tuesday work there, right? We're not asking these folks for money.
No, that's exactly right. We found, when we were thinking about Giving Tuesday, the idea of anyone in sub-Saharan Africa actually giving funds seemed absurd to us. Many people in sub-Saharan Africa, I would say most, live below the international poverty line, $1 a day. So the idea of anyone there kind of contributing funds is a non-starter. So we thought we would work with communities on other ways of giving. And we wanted to make the point that giving isn't only funds. Giving is also volunteerism. It's sharing knowledge. It's sharing experience. It's volunteering in your own community, volunteering in other communities, and that's the call of action that we put out. And then we have United Nations Development Program has 166 country offices in the developing world, and everyone has a situation of their own. Zimbabwe isn't like Burundi, even though they're both on the African continent. They have very, very separate situations. So what we needed to do was give them a way to tailor it to their own communities. And that's exactly what happened. We had a very varied activations throughout the world. 18 UNDP country offices finally joined us. I set a lofty goal with Mr. Henry Timms of 10, and we reached 18. So we were very, very happy with that. It was kind of like our pilot year to try it out, to see how our country offices would react to this. And so our goal was pretty lofty as well, even though it was only 18 this time. I'm sure that next year will be far, far more. And each activation was really very, very much localized to the community that participated. And we had incredible activations throughout the world.
I remember the very end of the day on Giving Tuesday when the pictures from Zimbabwe came in, and it was like just the perfect ending to a great day, reminding us that the money raised is fantastic, but it is not the only data that matters. What was the activation in Zimbabwe?
In Zimbabwe, there was 2 activations. There was a blood drive, like Henry said, and there was also the UN staff in Zimbabwe, in Harare, went to children's disabled schools and taught at that schools on that day, and activated the schools. There was a concert. And there was like across the city there was these schools for disabled children, which really are like, they're so poor it's kind of difficult to even imagine, and they have nothing. So a day of kind of fun and activity and learning that the United Nations set up for them was really a very, very big deal. And it turned out amazingly well in Zimbabwe. Other incredible activations was in Burundi. In Bujumbura, the capital of Burundi, there's a chronic lack of blood. So they were the first. They decided to have a blood drive, which went very, very well as well. And then they had a concert for a very, very poor community in Bujumbura with artists from various places around the world coming in and giving a concert that night. And then with the blood drive idea, our Copenhagen office, which is in the, it's not a country office, but it's a donor office. They decided to have a blood drive as well in Copenhagen, which was really remarkable because they were copying Bujumbura. So that was very, very, very nice activation as well. There was various other activations around the world as well.
So let's stay global and go to Jeanne.
All right. Hi, I'm Jeanne Paradis, and I work with Interaction. We're an alliance of organizations. We have about 190 international NGOs who are members, and we're all sort of united around the goal of ending poverty, or tackling poverty. So for Interaction, we're not a fundraising organization, and we don't fundraise for our members, but the real value we see to Giving Tuesday is not just raising funds, but also to allow people to participate and to hear these great stories of what our members are doing, and really sort of tap into this and learn more. So for us, Giving Tuesday is a really great chance to sort of talk about NGOs and what we're doing, and hopefully reach people who already support us, but reach new supporters. So for Giving Tuesday, we partnered with another great Giving Tuesday partner, the Huffington Post. And for the first year, we ran a 1-month blogging series. We had at least one blog from a member each day of the month of November, and sometimes up to 4. So I sort of coordinated our editorial calendar, and it was just a really great opportunity to push out content and really talk about how different communities are giving, both from our members, their support, and just sort of increase engagement that way.
One of my favorite posts from that series was from Heifer International, whose model is, gives a family a farm animal with the understanding that that family will then pass on the first female offspring of that animal to another family in need, which seems so Giving Tuesday to me. Henry talked about donors become owners, and this is even taking it a step further. Beneficiaries become donors, become owners. Very moving. Great. So we'll come back to you as well, but let's talk up to you, Sergio, about Latin America. You were instrumental in the activation there. So talk about the regional approach, how it works there. How did local communities organize, and if you could speak from Chile's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, Sergio, chairman of PVBLIC Foundation, we use media for impact. So when I had the opportunity to work with, with really bringing my foundation and a lot of what we're doing in Latin America, what we did is we grabbed Chile. Chile is our Latin American headquarters. So what we did is we said, basically we already had a platform there. We utilized Chile to kind of be the anchor of this messaging. And so we basically organized, I'm looking at the stats right now. We had 16 plus countries, including Spain, the Spanish-speaking regions. We put together 70 regional teams. And really what we started to do was, because of what we were doing, is using really media as a catalyst, as a currency, and bringing people together to sort of be the local leaders and local regional leaders and having them engage the different outlets and the different media outlets. And what we started to do, again, is educating people about the Giving Tuesday conversation. And giving can be defined in many ways. And also then really translating that culturally. Because a lot of, when you look at it and people say, oh, Giving Tuesday, is that another American holiday? And you sort of, you get everybody all turned off, and they're like, oh, for the most part, south of the border, they don't care to celebrate another American holiday. So the main issue that we had was educating, and what we had was kind of Chile, because of our relationships there, having our headquarters of Latin America there, was really using all the media outlets. So we had news sources, newspapers, and really not just, sort of advertising media, but earned media, and started to get that out there and get people, focused and asking the questions and continue to grow from there. And then, again, regionally, we just, looked at Argentina, look at local partners in Argentina, Mexico, Venezuela, Peru, Chile, Colombia, Bolivia, and just started to catch on. I mean, the way Latin America works is it's a very regional section of the world. So people don't really, there's a lot of cross-border, collaboration. So it's just what the Argentinians are doing, the Colombians want to know, and so did the Venezuelans. So, and the way it's all handled. So, I mean, we really kind of leveraged that, the way media is purchased and sold, and utilize that sort of as the underpinning on getting that information out and getting people excited. I mean, we did this in a matter of, I would say, less than 6 weeks. So it's pretty, I mean, it was, if I would have told you guys that we were going to do this, you would say, that's going to cost you $100 million and good luck. So, I mean, we're very excited, and we're excited for what we could do next year, because it's only the beginning.
Excellent, thank you. Eileen, talk a little bit about generosity, Giving Tuesday PHL, and what worked, what didn't, what you learned, what you want to do differently this year?
Sure. Generosity was an organization that was started a couple years before Giving Tuesday launched to just help nonprofits in Philadelphia get organized. And they were a part of a group of people of real cross-sector and really different age groups that were part of a core committee that was started after a meeting in March. So we gathered a meeting in March of people from the nonprofit, for-profit, and government sector. From that, we started a working group, and Generosity was part of that working group. And they took on our website. We were worried about if we had a website, Giving Tuesday PHL, that was sort of a phantom out there, that it would sort of lie dormant afterwards. So they took ownership of that, and they started coordinating the meetings. And we had, I think, two of the most powerful meetings. The first meeting in March, Henry was in Philadelphia and spoke. I think really was incited a lot of energy. And then we had a big one in September to get people, give people enough time to plan. And I think two of the core, one of the key issues that I think worked really well, and we consulted with the 92nd Street Y, is what should we do at these meetings to get as much energy but also really concrete ideas. And we broke up into small groups and had people brainstorm and then brought them back together. And I think the inventory of the ideas that came out all across the organizations, for-profit, nonprofit, government, universities were there, about what could happen on Giving Tuesday really created a lot of momentum. And the thing about the September meeting, there was about 120 nonprofits who were there, and they were in the fifth floor of the Jewish Museum in Center City, Philadelphia, and we were gathering all the ideas afterwards, putting them on a board, and there were several people that didn't want to share them because they didn't want anybody to steal them, which was such a funny thing, and so we, of course, didn't make them share their idea. But it turned out that spurred engagement from a lot of people that weren't there. So we had a ton of people that actually were coming to these meetings. The viral nature of social media and how people learned about Giving Tuesday and what they did was remarkable. So we had an increase of 600%. We didn't have a mark like Baltimore did, though I have to say when I heard they did that, I was jealous, but it was too late for us to do a similar thing. But we did want to go through all the sectors. We wanted to engage the nonprofit, the government, and the for-profit sector. And I think we did a good job. I think the hardest was the for-profit sector. It just was tough to get them. One of the things we did have, which I thought was great, was that the Building Managers Association, which often did these penny drives, and every major building in Philadelphia made them a Giving Tuesday penny drive with a big poster. And my husband was very involved with them and ended up doing that. And so the activity of people going in and out of the buildings for the week anticipating up to Giving Tuesday was seeing all this Giving Tuesday in every building. So no matter if you worked for a big company, a small company, there was a lot of Giving Tuesday. raising questions and seeing what could happen. So we, and the one last thing we did, and thanks goodness that we had a real cross-sector of ages. With the Boaz Foundation and somebody from NPT, we hired a full-time coordinator for about 3 months that actually coordinated social media, traditional media, answered all the basic questions. And as we were getting closer, we were flooded with inquiries, and to respond to them as thoughtfully as we can. So we had some one-pagers we gave out. So there was, by the time we got to the day, there were people engaged that we had no idea, had never heard of, raising money in all different ways. And I think the most powerful project that came out of the Philadelphia effort was an expungement, paperwork to do expungements for juveniles. 500 juveniles had free expungement paperwork who had their records cleared, and that was really motivated by Giving Tuesday, an arts and incarcerated youth project that went on. So that was a really powerful moment, but there was many more, and we documented that, so we have all it written up, and so, this is, going 9 months in. It feels like it just happened, so, one of the lessons is you really need to plan. You can't do this at the last minute.
Absolutely, and so, yeah, and I think that the Juvenile for Justice initiative really speaks to me about the importance of good storytelling when you're talking about Giving Tuesday. Those stories are the ones that just get mentioned over and over and over again. So in terms of engaging those for-profits, what would you do differently going forward? And Heather, that's a question for you as well.
I think we started early. We had a few engaged. We just had a hard time getting the leadership there. So I think, is to identify people early on, make personal connections with them, and yet get somebody in their organization involved. But I almost think, we need a core of lead entities. And I do agree that it's, with Henry said, it's not necessarily the top person, but somebody in the communications area, somebody that sees value, somebody's in social responsibility to get a project together. They really responded to concrete projects. When we actually relied on them to come up with their own projects, they had difficulty. So it was really good to have 4 or 5 or 6 examples of here's something you can do, here's something other companies have done. And so but to have some leadership in there, it doesn't, leadership doesn't just emerge on its own.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Eileen. Starting early is something that we learned as well when it comes to the corporate community. Their schedules are built, 12 months out. So they were already committed to ideas and dollars for the end of the year. But Constellation Energy was one of our partners. They're a big corporate citizen in Baltimore. They were great. They tried to help us make connections with companies that I think will bear fruit this year. But a lot of companies got involved in volunteering. So even though they couldn't really direct money, they did coordinate employee volunteer days on Giving Tuesday, which was great. We really appreciated any generosity that was happening in the city that day. So, several big employers actually did that as well. So I think we'll see more of that actually in 2014.
So from a nonprofit perspective, you and I have talked about this more offline. Nonprofits want to get involved, but they're concerned about working with each other, about cannibalizing end-of-year giving. What was your feeling about that after the fact?
Okay, so after the fact, I did get that question a lot, like did it cannibalize the year-end giving? And I'm really happy to report that in our own informal research, the answer is absolutely not. So we, and I know Blackbaud is here, and there's other networks and companies like Network for Good, for example, that probably have some really good research around this. But our own informal surveys with our nonprofits showed that 50% of the nonprofits who participated in Baltimore did not see any cannibalization whatsoever. 30% that participated actually saw that it spurred more donations in December. So they were seeing more new donors and more dollars coming in, which was fabulous. And then the other 20%, quite honestly, they just didn't know. They don't do robust reporting. They're small, they're resource constrained. So at the time of our survey, they didn't know, but they didn't think that it did. I've seen other research on this, like in the university space, they do a lot of giving days, and they don't see this happening either. So I think, we should be able to put that one to bed, I hope.
Sergio?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. One of the things that we saw, one of our partners is RMark. The guys at RMark had built a platform called Un Día para Dar, and Un Día para Dar is basically Giving Tuesday translated in Spanish, so that we were pushing a more localized conversation. But what Patricio and Guillermo had done, and basically teamed up with our executive director of Latin America, was they were able to get together 400 nonprofits to come in and join the platform. And really what the feedback that we got from them was really it gave them an ability and a reason to continue to cultivate their membership and get folks more excited about them being regionally and globally focused. And from a fundraising perspective, obviously, you know, to your comments, it's actually just gave people another connecting point. And you know, as we always often see with foundations, is that you're always just going back to the well with the same conversation. Hey, this is what we're doing, although you're saving the world in your own way. But this kind of just brings everybody together, creates a more collective organization, collective community of people that are focused on, you know, a conversation. And what we saw was folks that, you know, we had donations we created videos, we did commercials, people were donating all sorts of things. I mean, we actually created a video that went viral and in Argentina, actually Guillermo oversaw this and Patricio, and it was basically a video. It was a PSA, and a PSA. I mean, normally these things would cost $100,000, and it was just showing somebody doing good, and it was, you know, the goods were donated. So, and it was by an entrepreneur that said, hey, you know what? I love what you guys are doing. How do I get involved? I don't have any money, but I have resources. And that's kind of to touch upon those two last points you made. I just want to.
Excellent. One of the things that that strikes me about looking at this type of local engagement is the potential ramifications that it has for those communities at other times than Giving Tuesday. Could it potentially model for people a new way to interact, a new way to engage with their own community, a new way for sectors to work together? I don't know if you see any of those ramifications in any of the communities that you work in, but I think we're probably getting fairly low on time, and I want to take some questions from you guys. But I just want to run through you briefly to see if you think that it has any sort of larger implications. And also just would love to hear from each one of you briefly what your goal is for this Giving Tuesday.
Okay. In terms of local communities, that's part of our struggle and maybe what we'll try to focus on in the coming year. We're pretty top focused. We're sort of connecting with our member organizations who are then connecting with their communities. But it's sort of driving that conversation around what are like sort of basic principles that they can then take back to their communities.
Oh, sorry. You know, our goal with sort of what we've cultivated is to really to match what is being done around the rest of the world. So to be able to create that much more momentum, and we think that, you know, we've planted the seeds, well, you know, substantially, that I think that we'll get that momentum to, you know, it's sort of, the conversation's still going. So we feel that, you know, we could really, you know, put it into sixth gear.
So to answer your first question, in the terms of the nonprofits still cooperating, we absolutely see that. They were very proud that they were actually able to show the establishment that nonprofits can work collectively together, you know, for this common goal and not sort of independently. In terms of the goal, so we actually haven't set a dollar goal yet. We do want to aspire to something larger. But last year we only had a dollar goal. We didn't have new donors or volunteerism, or Henry actually recently sort of rallied, I think, the troops around this notion of subscription giving or monthly, you know, sustained giving for nonprofits. Very important to our nonprofits. So we're looking at those as types of goals. So volunteerism, dollar, and then maybe some subscription giving for nonprofits.
Excellent.
We had a bunch of trade groups like the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the grant-making local group. There's a massive arts collective of arts organizations. So we want to have them kind of keep the energy going within each one, because you can reach out to so many more people that way. And we want to be a lot better at collecting metrics. It was very hard to know. We had very little baseline to base it on. So, you know, better at collecting metrics, better at capturing the stories, and of course trying to strengthen the business community engagement. The government was pretty good. Our mayor got involved, probably not, doesn't sound quite as involved. He was excited, and I heard he gave it, added on a speech, so maybe to get them engaged earlier on. But I think that there's a part of this in which it's so naturally viral. And it's just wonderful. There's 3 or 4 very young Philadelphians in groups that get very involved in civic matters, and to really empower them to do a lot of Giving Tuesday thinking, because they think in social media quite differently, and it's sort of motivate, so it goes the whole spectrum of kind of from business to young people, social media, traditional. I mean, it's almost endless in what could happen, but we don't want it to be one little group owning it. We actually want it to be owned by the different parts of the sector. So if it's not being driven by one person, it's still happening.
For us, it would be, for next year, we want more engagement. We want more countries. We really think that the idea of giving is a completely universal idea, and we face similar problems that Sergio faced with with south of the border not wanting to participate because of an American holiday. We want to try and make it even more local next year. But what the feedback that we got from many country offices is that they want to engage in the same way that many of you here in the United States engage, which is basically make the connection between the private sector and non-for-profit. And a lot of the country offices want to concentrate on doing some kind of event to try and bring those things together and try and get even a little bit of giving from emerging private sectors in the developing world, and I think that's going to be a big thing that's going to come up in the next one.
And Boaz and Jeanne in particular, was there a role for social media in the initiatives that you were part of?
Oh, huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, I mean, for us, that was how we were getting our content out. We weren't, we were partnering with the Huffington Post, but we were relying on our social media channels to really connect and engage with audiences.
To connect with the leaders of the organizations, but not necessarily the people affected by the initiatives?
No, both, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boaz?
I think without social media, we couldn't have done it. It was vital. We connected on social media. We told our stories on social media. Someone mentioned, I think it was you, Asha, the storytelling aspect of Giving Tuesday, and that was a big part of what we were doing. And I think without social media, we couldn't have told that story in the way that we did. So I think social media played an absolute essential role in Giving Tuesday, and I think it's going to continue doing that.
Great. Any questions from you guys? Yeah.
Questions for GiveCorps. I'm from Baltimore, and I know that one of the things. What you do. I know that one of the things you do so well is the private-public partnerships. People can donate to the nonprofit you're supporting one day and get a gift certificate to a restaurant. Often, the gift certificate's for higher quantity than they have to donate, which is kind of a tool to bring people in. Would you see for Giving Tuesday, around the consumerism that we know is of that season, that would be a quality way to engage partners? Or do you think it takes away from the premise of the day?
So just to explain a little bit about our platform. So folks can come and make a donation to their favorite nonprofit, and they're rewarded by a local business. On Giving Tuesday, we actually had 12 different local businesses who provided an hourly incentive. So as the speaker was saying, you could donate $10, you would get $10 off at a local restaurant. Our small businesses in Baltimore wanted to participate in Giving Tuesday, and so this was a tremendous way for them to reward donors and be recognized, and also, attract new customers themselves. It didn't stop there. We actually had, because we only had 12 different rewards partners, we had a local salon who did a haircut-a-thon and I think they raised about $1,000 during their haircut-a-thon. We had a local pizza shop who said, we're going to do a Be More Gives More pizza for a month, and a percentage of the proceeds went to our matching funds pool. We had an ice cream shop that collaborated with a granola company for a Be More Gives More ice cream flavor. So we sort of embraced any creative generosity that occurred in our community. If a merchant had an idea, they wanted to get involved, we said yes. And it really resulted in some tremendous activity, and again, sort of that spirit of being the most generous community in whatever form or shape it took.
I love that as a best practice. We said yes.
We said yes.
Just one of the amazing things, and we didn't expect, is that we have two really big public radio stations in Philadelphia, and one of them had underperformed on their fall fund drive, so they decided to take it Giving Tuesday and go on the air the whole day talking about all the things that were going on. And they weren't just promoting their own fund drive, they were promoting doing good in Philadelphia. And the general manager was on the air, and the two biggest hosts all day were pitching Giving Tuesday nonstop. Yeah, I couldn't believe it, and they made it, and they way exceeded their goal that they missed, but they engaged thousands of people who had never heard of it, and so the energy around having traditional media, not social media, also was really powerful.
Excellent. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Abby Flatamish with Atlas Corps, and we have hundreds throughout the world, and I'm really interested in delving into this international piece. I think what's so amazing is how you talked about almost like the quote-unquote translating of the concept. So I'm curious from Sergio and Boaz, looking at some of the tools, did you really promote the general Giving Tuesday tools? Did you go beyond? Did you create a lot of your own so that people in those local networks throughout the world could understand it better? And then looking broadly, like what can we do as a global community to then increase that knowledge, whether it's multi-language tools, whether it's even using different terminology, and how can we partner with the Giving Tuesday initiative to kind of build that global context on these numerous levels?
What we did, and it's something that Aaron had, always kind of instilled in when we talked about it, is like it's not ours, it's everyone's, right? And it's kind of like we presented it was more of, hey, this is a movement to connect people, to get everybody focused on. It's less about where it's coming from, but more about what can you do. And we built all localized content. It was 100% localized content to all the way down from the ads that we put out to the earned media to going out and doing interviews and really getting and talking about it. And a lot of it also came back full circle because certain TV stations in the local regions were saying, what's going on? What is this, a day to give? What does this mean? And the funny thing was when, like, for example, in Venezuela, they're like trying to figure out who's behind this, and it was like, no, it's the people, right? And that was kind of like what became the conversation. There was a couple articles where they were talking about, and they're like, we love this. It's like a grassroots, and it's not about anybody's specific agenda, and they just and everybody coming together. So to answer your question, yeah, we did build resources. Right, we had to, because you had to allow people to connect and identify with the conversation, and we explained the big vision. But at the end of the day, is what are you going to do, right? And how are you going to make the world better? And it was like wildfire. So I mean, it was, but it was definitely. I think that the hurdle was converting the conversation. Once we did, and we said, okay, it's un día para dar. It was, okay, people got it. It wasn't Giving Tuesday. It wasn't Thanksgiving, right? And so we're very excited about that.
I think I agree with a lot of what Sergio said, but I think translations are very important. You touched on that. We translated to all the official UN languages, the 6 official UN languages. Please don't ask me to name them now. And so that was very, very important, but translating the message was absolutely vital. Many of our constituencies don't have a clue about Cyber Monday or Black Friday. They just don't know. So what we were trying to push is the idea of universal giving. And we, it was almost, we randomly picked the day of the 3rd of December, and that's our International Day of Giving. And, Henry's and mine goal is to make this into one of the UN goals. We have a day for women, which we just had last week. We have, I think it's over 100 international days that we have in the year. And we want Giving Tuesday to become the International Day of Giving. So where it started from, which is in the United States after Thanksgiving, that needs to be translated into a different story for the world, and that's what we were trying to do. And I think we learned some lessons about that, and I think moving forward we'll be better translating the story and concentrate on the universal giving aspect.
There's a World Toilet Day, so there can certainly be a day of giving.
As the story grows, there's no more need to translate, and that's the beauty about social media, right? Because then it just kind of starts to connect together, and I think that's like the hardest part is, like you just said, it's just getting that out there, and then once you've broken that barrier, it's just the story speaks for itself.
So we're out of time, but I want to just end with a quick speed round, 10 seconds or less. People are watching out there. They are potential community ambassadors for Giving Tuesday. Give them one tactical tip. Start with you, Jeanne.
Can I go last?
Yes. Start with you, Boaz. You're good on the fly.
I think even the United Nations, which is a very large international body, it's great to be part of a community of giving. We found that the community, United Nations Foundation, 92nd Street Y, but all the 10,000 members of this community really helped us and really supported us, and it was really very, very important for us to be part of this community and not to be alone, not to do this alone.
I'd say create as broad a coalition as you can by age and sector and different kinds of media approaches, and keep them engaged regularly leading up to the event, knowing that people are going to jump in and out of it because they'll stay focused and there'll be a viral effect from that.
Okay, I'd say start early and find a convener in your community who really can rally the right brand leaders that'll get everybody else on board. And then I'll just add one other thing to echo what these gentlemen were saying, that content really does matter for nonprofits. So to the extent that you can create free content and put it out there for your nonprofit community to use, that can really get a lot of people to participate.
I would say be the convener. You don't have to be part of any organization because you will have your own set of communities, and you could, be the convener within your own circle and sort of lead by example and get out there and get the word out.
Yeah, I would say think about your organization's strengths. I think part of what Giving Tuesday is it's very much, it allows you to adapt it to your given story. So think about what your story is and how that fits into the broader messaging, and then of course think about who your networks are. And toolkits are really, really powerful things. If you can package the material up and give people the hashtag and sample tweets, that works well.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you. Enjoy the day.